there's one more reporting from Michael Scotto, and it was Paul Reed. And in his article, he said that Paul Reed could be added in some trades for a salary filler. Now, I kind of want to switch the question around because I've had such a hard time understanding why Paul Reed was added to this roster. Now, I get that you want to carry three centers. I get that. The playing time makes no fucking sense. Like I don't understand it. Like at times when maybe we're on a back-to-back, he barely gets any burn. They always talk about, him being one of those key veterans. Like the Charlotte Hornets game when they were in Charlotte and they lost on a tip-in. I mean, he had like 7 points during that stretch in the fourth quarter, and he looked really good. I mean, am I missing something? Is like Paul Reed a good basketball player, or maybe I'm tripping a little bit?
B-ball Paul is definitely a valuable basketball player. I don't think he was brought in to have minutes when Isaiah Stewart and Jalen Duren are both healthy. I think he was brought in to be a contingency plan for if and when neither or one of those two are not healthy, because both players have missed quite a few games within the last few seasons. Duren with the ankle injuries, and then Isaiah Stewart has had just kind of, spontaneous injuries that have taken him out typically towards the end of the season. So you can always say like, maybe he could have came back if they were playing, basketball that meant anything besides what pick they're getting. But again, he has missed time. And I think Paul Reed, his role on this team was to just be there and be able to provide kind of there's a term that Jamil McMillan, Motor City Cruise head coach, uses. He says basketball Swiss Army knife, right? Like that's kind of the role that you kind of have to have Paul Reed play when he does get minutes. With that being said, I 100% do think he was acquired by the Detroit Pistons to ultimately be moved in a trade. The contract, when you look at the CBA and how things are constructed right now, the contract is able to match, some salary dumps, and it's able to be one of those ones that are used in terms of salary filler and, taking on deals that maybe may not be favorable for another team, or, like a team that needs a big, but like, there's just a lot of situations where you can plug in a Paul Reed to a deal, and not saying he's going to get you like a first round pick or anything like that, but to be used in a trade that gets you some sort of asset back. And I do ultimately think that is why Trajan Langdon and JB, or I'm sorry, not JB, Michael Blackstone and JR Holden, I believe, of the Pistons front office. These are all like very, very smart basketball minds, and every single move they make is extremely calculated. And I can't help but say there was a reason they took on this contract in the summer. And yes, it is to be a contingency plan if Isaiah Stewart and Jalen Duren are not healthy, but it is also to be kind of an option in terms of the trade market. And when I talk about, marginal moves, this would be one of those. Like, I don't expect them to, go out and make a Jaden Ivey for like, I don't know. I don't even expect a Zach LaVine or a Brandon Ingram to walk through the doors this season. But I like, he's not to be used for a deal like that. It's to be used for a marginal deal.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. Well, we're going to talk about a backup point guard in the next segment that just currently got waived. But I've just been really puzzled because I know he can play. I know he can give you good minutes, can stretch the floor. I think he's done pretty well in limited time in just the DHO sets. But I feel like some of he's got really good highlights, but he also has like really good lowlights in the same breath. He kind of reminds me of Pokashevsky from a few years ago with OKC. Like some of his highlights to be like on Bleacher Report, but his lowlights would be on Shaqtin' a Fool. Like that's what I kind of think when I watch Paul Reed at times. But I've just been really puzzled. If that was their plan, cool. But I mean, I don't really think it was like really directed to the fans that, hey, we just picked up this guy because you never know at the trading deadline. We could flip him for an asset, flip him for maybe a 7-foot center or a veteran backup point guard. I don't think they really kind of told the fans like what they were going to do, because he was on waivers. They picked him up, and they're like, screw it. Who cares?
Yeah, I mean, it's not something I also expect them to come out and be like, hey, yeah, we picked up this guy so we can trade him. And I don't even like it's also not a guarantee that he gets moved, but of the players on the Detroit Pistons, I would say he is the most likely to get dealt this trade season. And it's because of the contract, and because when you pick up someone off of waivers, typically it's around like the $1 to $4 million range. I believe his contract's 7.68. If I can go off the top of my head, you can let me know if I got that right. But he's just a guy that can get you probably a second round pick back. And this is a team that is not very heavy on second round picks, which the new CBA, I feel like deserves to get talked about a little bit more, just because of how much it affects the value of things. And second round picks now are a lot more valuable than they used to be. And whether the NBA has realized that yet or not is, up to whatever front office is, is the one you're talking to. But over time, I do expect second round picks to have more value and to be coveted a little more. And the Pistons, I think, need to stockpile back on some of those.
Yeah, no, Trajan got a pretty good second round pick for just taking on Tim Hardaway Jr.'s contract. It's going to be Toronto's second.
Yeah.
So that's pretty exciting. And if you're a Piston fan, you should be praying for Toronto's downfall, because the worse they do, the higher that pick will be. But I probably shouldn't say that. Karma, watch us go on a losing streak because I said
All
that.
of a sudden they go on a play-in push.
Yeah. And if that does happen, you guys can blame me.